if you're making a decision and half the population isn't in the room, I don't think that that decision is going to benefit everyone. For example, if there's 20 women in a room making a decision about men's health care and there's only one man in the room, that one man isn't going to be heard, and that policy probably is not going to be in his favor. So I think it's really important to have women at the table and able to contribute to those conversations. My name is Kirsten Foster, and I'm the Advocacy Officer at Girl Up, which means that I run our advocacy program that's here domestically in the US and then also abroad. So at the federal level, there's only a little under 20% of women in Congress. That translates to 106 women in Congress currently, and out of those 106 women, only 38 are women of color.
Have positions of power not only in this country but around the world, and historically disproportionately represented by men, their decisions matter more, their voices matter more, the issues that matter to them are given a prevalence in the national dialogue. So getting more women in public office changes the political direction of the country, the city, the world really, and the issues that are more important for them can really take precedent and really be on the table.
Women are more likely to be better advocates for improving life in the US. They're more likely to compromise. They are more likely to negotiate with other parties. And so I think that if you bring women to the table, you are more likely to get things done. Right now in Congress, as we all know, there's a lot of political stalemate. We've seen the government shut down quite a few times recently. And so I think bringing more women into the mix can help ease that political stalemate.
Women tend to lose their ambition for running for public office very early, like in grade school. They don't see themselves as leaders in elected. That's a problem.
Women who run for office or even show really any ambition are really not taken seriously. And I think we saw this so clearly in the election in 2016, sort of all of the comments about Hillary's outfits or the fact that she wasn't smiling or all of these things, this double standard that is placed on women in politics or women with ambition that men don't have to deal with.
Women are put in a box at times of you have to be friendly and you have to be nice and you need to smile. But what happens if you go outside of that box? You're called bossy, you're called aggressive, and I don't think that you have to be those things. I think you can be assertive. I think you can know what you want. I think you can be passionate, and people who aren't okay with that will then call you bossy. I and Girl Up believe that getting more women into leadership roles and training them on how to do advocacy, how to talk to their members of Congress or decision makers can make a huge impact into giving girls that confidence to go in and say, I want to make a change and I can make a change, and I'm going to do this through being a member of Congress or running for my local office or running for my state board. I think that when there's just men in those positions, it's hard for women to see themselves in those positions.
We go out and we talk to women one-on-one and in small groups and sometimes larger groups and explain to them that this is not the big scary they think it is, and running for local office isn't like what you see when you're looking to run at the federal level.
For anyone in college, I would recommend the program called We Lead. It's based here in DC. And so if you live in the DMV area, it's a great program to do. It's run by Jennifer Lawless, who does a lot of work on why women don't run for office. And they taught us how to fundraise. They taught us how to write letters to get our name out there. They taught us how to network with other people. They taught us kind of just like the ins and outs of running for office and what that looks like. So we definitely highly recommend any books by Jennifer Lawless on running for office or being part of her fellowship.
Emerge is an organization that trains women to run for public office. 60% of our alumni are women of color. And women of color have a lot more ground to make up as far as not being represented, clearly being underrepresented. So we work very hard to make sure that we are opening the doors and making sure that these women are, represented in our organization and in the training, but also when it comes time to run, making sure that they have just as much support from, that they can, and inspiration from us that we can give.
I think there is a lot of room for conversations between men. I think a lot of men, if there's a woman talking to them about feminism, they can really shut down and say, this has nothing to do with me. And I think that's quite dangerous. But I think if more men were willing to really have those challenging conversations with their brothers, their peers, their fathers, the other men in their lives, if they really believe in this, I think that can do a lot of good. I think getting men more involved in supporting women in politics is sort of underneath the larger engaging men to support gender equality, which I think at its core is getting men to understand that gender equality affects them too, and gender inequality is actually hurting them.
Our goal isn't to make the men feel uncomfortable, but if they're not doing their job, maybe they ought to. And I'm hoping this will drive better leadership across the board. We're all hoping that the men will step up more, that they'll take more interest in the issues that women bring to the table.
I think that both parties benefit from having more women in office, and not just women in office. I think there needs to also be more women in leadership positions also.
I'm fascinated by the example of Rwanda. 20 years ago, you have a monumental genocide, 800,000 people are killed, and essentially the way that Rwanda responded was with full gender equality. They now have the highest rate of women in their parliament in the world, and it's actually had really incredible economic benefits. They're the fastest growing economy in Central Africa. Their poverty rate has dropped tremendously, inequality has dropped tremendously, and I think it's really kind of a fascinating example that giving women the reins politically can have huge benefits for the entire country, not just those women who encouraged you to become part of office. If we talk about that more and look at that more, I think that's a really powerful argument in favor of greater female participation in politics, because look what it did in Rwanda, look what it could do around the world.